Well, hello again, Woodland friends. It's great to see you. I'm Dr. David Mercker, Extension Forester with the University of Tennessee. Welcome to another session of Back Porch Forestry. By the time this is actually uploaded onto YouTube, we'll be into our fourth year of production. So I certainly appreciate your support over the years. Let's go ahead and get started with today's session without wasting any time. Back Porch Forestry. Today's session is kind of an unusual topic. I've received this question several times over the course of my career. And why is it difficult to write a crop budget for hardwood timber? Now, most farmers are familiar with enterprise budgets for livestock such as cattle or goats, or field crops such as soybeans. And these budgets are used to estimate revenue and production costs and the potential for profit. Many farmers also own some hardwood forest land from which periodic timber harvesting offers the potential for significant revenue. Thus, it's logical to ask, should landowners who own hardwood forests prepare budgets for their timber crops? Well, this video addresses this very question by discussing the components of enterprise budgets and highlighting the significant differences between hardwood timber and other farm products. The challenges in predicting revenues and expenses and net profit will be examined. Note that this video focuses on hardwood forests, which are the most common timber type in Tennessee. Softwood or pine forests are much simpler systems and are harvested more frequently and are more amenable to budget considerations. So revenue is generated when products are sold. To estimate potential revenue, the number of units to be sold is multiplied by the price per unit. For corn, this is fairly straightforward. A farmer might expect a yield of 150 bushels of corn per acre, and the per acre bushel price is widely reported. For beef calf operations, it might be a little more complicated because there's more than just one product. We've got cull cows and heifer calves and steer calves with different prices and weights for each. Now, for hardwood timber revenue, the potential revenue calculation is far more complicated. There's just many variables, and some of the important variables include the following. We've got long harvest intervals. Prices for crop and livestock vary from season to season, and this affects budgeting. However, hardwood harvest may occur only every 15 to 30 years or more. So the normal fluctuations in price must be considered in combination with inflation and longer-term price trends. In addition, storms, disease outbreaks, or insect attacks can occur before harvest, reducing the value of the stand. The result is that it's very difficult to predict with much certainty the future value of a timber harvest. Many species of trees within Tennessee exist. There's over 100 different species of hardwood trees, and approximately 30 have commercial lumber value. And even within these, there's a wide range of potential value. Another reason is just the wide range of tree quality. So in addition to the species, it's the grade of the hardwood trees that is a key factor in its value. Tree and log grade depend on many factors such as its size and the presence of defects such as knots. Next, growth rate is just highly variable. So growth rate affects both the amount and the value of the wood that will be added to trees each year. In addition, growth rate varies greatly by location, by species, and even the genetic makeup of trees. So this makes predicting the growth rate and the potential value of a particular tree or tree stand very difficult. And we've got diversity of markets as well. Wood has many potential uses, and is affected by the types of wood mills that are within a reasonable distance from the harvest site. This changes over time and further complicates predictions of future harvest revenues. And then just the intensity of forest management. While most hardwood forests are not actively managed, activities such as planting desirable trees, thinning of poorly formed trees or low value species, these can have a significant impact on the future value of the stand. And these management actions can be intensive or costly, and their potential for creating future revenue is just very difficult to generalize. So these variables have a wide ranges, and they interact with each other. And the result is that while general trends and trade-offs can be identified, making a precise estimate of a future value really is not practical. Let's talk about variable expenses. With traditional enterprise budgets, the costs associated with establishing and tending a crop or raising the livestock are variable. The total expenses will depend on how many acres planted or animals raised, and which management activities the farmer chooses, in other words, irrigation or supplemental feeding. The costs of conducting the active business of farming tend to be ongoing and large relative to the potential revenue. For most forest landowners of hardwood timber in Tennessee, the variable costs are small and infrequent. Most of the forest land consists of naturally regenerating trees that receive little active management as they grow. Thus, the costs of establishment and follow-up management are small. This is different than of course, with pine plantations, where there are more active management and higher variable expenses, such as planting and thinning and fertilizing. But a professional consulting forester may be hired to manage a timber sale or to help evaluate and plan the management of the forest. A forester's fees for developing an inventory or creating a management plan are often based on a per acre rate. When foresters handle a timber sale, the fee is usually a percentage of the sale price. Finally, stand improvement tasks such as thinning generally are a cost. Thinnings may have some value to the market, and cost share from government can help reduce the cost of stand improvement. Fixed expenses. Well, fixed expenses are those bills that must be paid regardless of how many head of cattle are raised or acres are planted or timber acres are owned. These include equipment payments, property taxes, and insurance. Since most forest landowners do not harvest their own timber and would not have the associated harvesting expenses, the major fixed costs are property taxes and land payments and insurance. So what about a break-even analysis? Enterprise budgets usually include a table listing product prices that would be needed to pay for the fixed and variable costs of several yield scenarios. The analysis may also be presented in terms of the yields required to cover the expenses given certain price scenarios. In either case, the intent is to arrive at the production or price point at which the business is paying for itself. Then, any extra yield or higher prices or lower costs result in profit, meaning that the business of farming is worth it. Of course, there are potential rewards for farming other than making a profit. The satisfaction of running an independent enterprise or providing products to the community are examples. The other potential rewards appear to be especially important for many forest landowners. As discussed already, the fixed and variable costs associated with growing trees are usually small, and the potential revenue is infrequent and uncertain. For those reasons, many landowners consider their forest less of an actively farmed land and more as places to hunt or get away or just as rainy day savings accounts. Finally, the land itself may increase in value over time, regardless of whether timber crops are harvested. So, hardwood timber crops are just a different enterprise. Hardwood timber is different from cattle or corn, and so too are the budgets. Although revenue can be infrequent and hard to predict, there is potential for large periodic returns from harvesting timber. Attempts to evaluate and even improve the timber crop may be worth the additional cost, but calculating a precise enterprise budget for hardwood timber is highly variable. Although hardwood timber is fundamentally different from other farm crops, hardwood forests can benefit greatly, certainly, from management. As mentioned, there are many factors that can affect the future value of a timber harvest. One of the best predictors is knowing where you are starting from in terms of the number and the species and the size and the quality of trees that you have. So preparing a forest management plan can also aid in the prediction and the enhancement of future timber harvest. And as always, first see a forester. In summary, Crop budgets for hardwood timber are very difficult to write and prepare. Hardwood forests are very rich in species diversity. So how do you develop a budget when you've got 30 different species out there? And timber production varies with the intensity of the forest management. How is the forest going to be managed? So different species managed differently. Hardwood tree grade or even the quality certainly influences the potential, and there's a wide range in the quality. And then finally, tree growth rate is highly variable too, and it's very difficult to predict. And it's certainly a function of species and site and management intensity. So it's very difficult. In other words, there's just a lot of assumptions that have to be made in trying to develop a hardwood crop budget. Well, that concludes this presentation. It's brief. I, as always, encourage you to complete the survey just to assist with our program evaluation. And this publication is also available, a summary of this presentation is available via publication that's online, and it's titled, "Why is it difficult to write a crop budget for hardwood timber?" There's the URL. It will be posted on the YouTube site, or you can just Google that title and my last name, Dr. Taylor's last name, the primary author. So thank you for your attention, and we certainly appreciate your support of Back Porch Forestry.